The deadly Russian onslaught in Ukraine appears to be intensifying this Wednesday, targeting the country's largest cities. That is new video into us from Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city, once again being hit by Russian airstrikes this morning. And that's just some of the extensive damage we're seeing in civilian areas. The Ukrainian military says Russian paratroopers are now in Kharkiv as part of a new attempt to capture that city. Here's the latest map we have of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. This is now day 7 for the attack, and Western military analysts say Russia has now committed 80% of the forces built up around Ukraine to the attack. In the south, Russian forces are attempting to push both west and east toward Mariupol in what analysts say is an attempt to link up with forces in the Donbass. You can see the attack on Kharkiv on this map and also west toward Kyiv and that two-pronged advance on the Ukrainian capital. Now, here's some new analysis on that Russian convoy we've been telling you about. Right now, there are no new images, but a senior U.S. military official says the convoy appears to be stalled about 30 kilometers north of Kyiv. In a briefing with journalists, the official calls it, as I said, stalled, and says that logistical issues like shortages of fuel and food may be the reason, adding that Russian forces may also be regrouping because of Ukrainian resistance. In a new speech this morning, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky accuses Russia of trying to erase Ukraine's history.
Це вже за межею людяності. Такий ракетний удар свідчить, що для багатьох людей в Росії наш Київ абсолютно чужий. Вони нічого не знають про нашу столицю, про нашу історію. Але у них є наказ стерти нашу історію, стерти нашу країну, стерти нас усіх.
Ukrainian President Zelensky, the translation of his speech on the left of your screen there, and you saw his reference to a Russian airstrike into central Kyiv that Ukrainian officials say struck near a Holocaust memorial. Now, as we bring in our senior correspondent, Susan Ormiston, she is with us again live from Lviv in the west of the country today. Susan, good to see you once more. Let us begin with the situation on the ground and the latest on the intensifying fight for Ukraine's cities.
Good morning, Heather. Another quiet night here in Lviv. Thankfully, people resuming their daily life here. You can see lots of people in the streets today moving about. There was an air raid siren this morning, but they're pretty much once a day, and people kind of work them into their daily habit now. But in the rest of the country, as you've described, heavy fighting still in major cities. You know, important to reinforce that Kharkiv is the second largest city in Ukraine, 1.4 million people. And you see these images again this morning of a large building, the police and intelligence headquarters, being attacked, an air attack, flames shooting out of that building. And, you know, around there, lots of residential areas. We think that many people have already fled these cities, Kharkiv being an example, but surely there's people still there when you're talking about more than 1 million people. We're also hearing of a fight in that port city of Mariupol, as you say, to try to build a connection by land from Crimea to the east, Donbass region, and also Kherson. Now, in Kherson, the Russian media had been supporting that the Russians had taken that city, but Ukrainians are pushing back, saying, no, that's not the case at all. It is surrounded, but the Russians have not taken control of Kherson at this time, Heather.
Susan, I was just playing an excerpt from the latest address from the Ukrainian president, but we're also hearing a very impassioned statement from the mayor of Kyiv today. What does he say?
Well, the mayor is there in the city holding fort. Many of the men in Kyiv have stayed. 18 to 60-year-olds have been told to stay in the country and fight. And the mayor is saying that if the forces that are surrounding Kyiv actually come into the city, that large convoy you've been talking about, that they will fight. Let's listen.
We will be fight. It's every square, every street. People is a huge patriotic movement right now. The old people, can you imagine? Doctors, actors from theater, the professions, they never have expectation to fight, to keep the weapons, but right now they coming to us and ask about the weapons. They ready to fight. It's amazing.
We are hearing a similar kind of spirit in and around Lviv. We've been out talking to people who are they're making barricades here. They're forming small resistant groups, young people getting into this fight. So very much a patriotic spirit as they wait and wonder whether the Russian troops actually are going to come closer here to Lviv. But the mayor of Kyiv saying that the resistance is strong in that city. And one more thing about talks. We did hear there could be talks with Ukraine and Russia as soon as today, but it appears that Russia is trying to almost blame the Ukrainian officials for not setting a time or a place. And Ukraine is saying, the president said yesterday, no talks unless the bombardment stops. And now this morning we're hearing an official say that, in fact, there has to be a substantial agenda before any of those talks take place. But perhaps a glimmer of hope.
Susan, thank you so much again this morning. Our senior correspondent, Susan Ormiston, who is in Lviv.